The title of our book is Aztecs by Catriona Clark. Who were the Aztecs? The Aztecs were people who lived in Mexico until about 500 years ago. The Aztecs were very powerful. They ruled over lots of land and people. This Aztec picture shows some people on a long journey. Settling down. No one knows exactly where the Aztecs came from. They arrived in Mexico about 700 years ago, looking for a new home. Other people already lived in all the best places. After a long journey, they arrived at a lake in a big valley. They began to build houses on a few islands on the lake. The Aztecs called their new home Tenochtitlan. The Aztecs believed that a god had sent a sign telling them where to live. The sign was an eagle with a snake in its mouth. It was perched on a cactus, as shown in this picture. Living on the lake. The Aztecs took over lots of land during the next few years. Tenochtitlan grew to become a beautiful city. The Aztecs built lots of canals so that people could get around by boat. There were gardens where people grew corn, fruit, flowers, and vegetables. There was a huge square with some temples and a very grand palace. The palace was so big there was even a zoo inside. This map shows the big square in the middle of the city. The speaker. The Aztecs were ruled by a very important man. He was known as the speaker. No one was allowed to disobey an order from the speaker. The speaker was carried when he went outside. The ground was swept in front of him. He wore a special costume when he led the Aztecs to war. No one was allowed to turn their back on the speaker, even when they were walking away from him. This is an old painting of Montezuma II. He was the last Aztec speaker. His shield and cloak are decorated with feathers. What to wear. There were strict rules about what people were allowed to wear. Only rich nobles were allowed to wear bright patterned clothes. Ordinary Aztecs wore plain clothes that were made out of rough material. Priests dressed in black and never washed their long, tangled hair. This picture of a warrior is from an Aztec book. The best warriors were allowed to wear clothes with lots of feathers and decoration. Any warrior who captured 4 prisoners became very important. Everyday life. Lots of people lived in houses next to a canal. The white walls kept the houses cool in the hot sun. Everyone slept on mats on the floor inside their house. Most food was cooked inside on a small fire. Women made clothes for their families to wear. Some men worked at home, making things to sell. Growing up. Children were very important to the Aztecs. They had to behave well. Very naughty children were punished. This boy is being held over a fire with chilies burning in it. The smoke would sting his eyes. Baby boys were given a tiny bow and arrow when they were born. Young children had to help their parents with jobs like fishing. At school, girls and boys learned to sing and dance. Some boys went to a special school to train to be priests. Food and drink. The Aztecs ate lots of vegetables and beans, but not much meat. They liked spicy food. Jars like these were used to store food. They were often decorated with animals. The Aztecs liked to wrap all kinds of food in tortillas. To make tortillas, they ground corn on a stone to make flour. Then they added water to the flour to make a dough. The dough was made into tortillas, which were cooked. The Aztecs loved to drink chocolate. They added chilies to make it spicy. Buying and selling. There was a busy market near the city. People went there to buy and trade things. More than 50,000 people visited the market every day. Some stalls sold fruit and flowers, and some sold live animals such as turkeys and dogs. There were precious stones for sale and animal skins too. The Aztecs didn't have money. They sometimes used coca beans to buy things instead. The ball game. The Aztecs played a very exciting game called Tlachtli. There were 2 teams. The players wore padding to protect themselves from the hard rubber ball. They could only hit the ball with their hips, knees, and elbows. This could hurt a lot. The players tried to get the ball through the stone ring high on the wall. This is a goal ring. It was very hard to score a goal because the hole was so small. The winners could take any belongings they liked from the crowd. Gods and goddesses. The Aztec believes in lots of different gods and goddesses. They held lots of festivals to worship them. This is a mask of a very powerful god called Feathered Snake. It is made from lots of tiny pieces of stone called turquoise. The sun god and the god of sun and war was called Hummingbird on the left. Hummingbird on the left's mother was an earth goddess called Snake Skirt. The Aztecs believed that the god of water brought rain, thunder, and lightning. Smoking Mirror was god of the night sky. He decided if people would be lucky. Giving blood. The Aztecs believed that their gods had to be fed with human hearts and blood. Priests killed prisoners at the top of a temple. This is called human sacrifice. People thought this was a good way to die because it helped the gods. More than 10,000 people were once sacrificed in 4 days. Sometimes a strong enemy prisoner was given weapons and tied to a round stone. He fought the best Aztec warriors. The fight ended when the prisoner was badly injured. The priest cut out the prisoner's heart and offered it to the gods. In battle. The Aztecs often went to war to capture people for human sacrifice. Every man in the city got ready to go off to fight when they heard the war drum. The best warriors were Eagle Knights and Jaguar Knights. They wore special clothes. The warriors usually didn't try to kill the enemy. They took them as prisoners instead. This is a statue of an eagle warrior. 2 of these statues guarded the entrance of a temple in Tenochtitlan. The Aztecs thought that brave warriors who died came back to life as hummingbirds and butterflies. Under attack. In 1519, Spanish soldiers arrived in Tenochtitlan. They had sailed across the ocean searching for treasure. When they arrived, the Aztecs welcomed them, but the Spanish were shocked when they saw that the Aztecs sacrificed people. The Spanish wanted to take over the city, so they attacked it. In 1521, they captured the city and killed lots of people. This old picture shows the Spanish fighting the Aztecs. The Spanish destroyed a lot of the buildings in the city and built their own. This was the end of the Aztec era.